Gadget Inspector.
What's good, everybody? Your friendly neighborhood Gadget Inspector here, and today we are taking a look at the Eachine QX95S. So it's the second iteration of the original QX95, which was one of the more popular micro FPV quads released last year. And I never got one, so I'm really excited to try this one out. Okay, so let's take a look at what comes in the box and get a close-up look at the quad. All right, so here it is. And one of the great things about this box is that you can retain the quad with the props on, keep everything in one place, which is always good. Now, we're going to come back to this shortly, but let's take a look at everything else first. Here's the battery. Okay, so it comes with one battery. It's a high voltage 1S battery. That's 3.8 volts, 450 milliamp hour with a 30C rating. And so high voltage LiPos or HV LiPos charge up to 4.35 volts instead of the common 4.2 volts. And let me make sure you can see that. Sorry. So yeah, you can see the labeling there. Okay, so 4.2 volts is the standard for 3.7 volt LiPos. Now, from what I've learned from researching this, the higher voltage is supposed to translate into higher motor speeds. So it's supposed to make it faster. So we will definitely check that out. It also comes with this charging adapter here, okay, to charge these. And then if you look here, on the side here, there's a little, oops, sorry, there we go. There's a little notch here that allows you to switch from 1 amp or switch between 0.5 amps or 1 amp in terms of the charge rate. Okay, now I only have the one battery that came with the quad, but I have a ton of the standard 3.7 volt batteries, so I'll fly it with both. And you know, I've got a ton of these, you know, 3.7 500 milliamperes. I've got some 450s. Now this is kind of a slender, skinny form factor here, but I can't see any reason why these won't fit on there just as well. And I could probably weigh them and see what the difference is, but they, just to the feel, they don't feel that much different in weight, so why bother? Okay, so I'll fly both around and see if there's any notable difference. And advertised flight time is 6 minutes, but as always, we will be testing that out to see if that is in fact the case. We get extra props, and I'll make a note about the props in a minute here. But you get extra props. We've got 2 rubber bands hidden here. There's a couple of Velcro strips. There's a prop removal tool, and there's some extra screws here. All right. So with the rubber bands and the Velcro, that gives you some options on securing the battery. You could either use the rubber bands or the Velcro or both if you want to make sure that battery doesn't eject. And you also get this little Allen wrench here, and so you can make repairs, and probably a good idea to go ahead and tighten up each of these. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4. There's only 4 of them. So, but you get a tool for that, which is great. Okay, you get a little manual here for the all-in-one camera, and it explains how to change channels and bands on the all-in-one camera, and we'll look at that in a second. And you've got a 1-page manual that I actually find is pretty good. Sometimes the manuals are really hard to follow, or due to maybe broken English or whatever, or just not laid out well. But this is nice and simple, and it has a lot of good information here. How to bind. It's going to give you part numbers for replacement parts. What else? It even has a schematic here for the F3 Evo flight controller, and it also has some general Betaflight configuration information on here as well. Okay, now let's take a closer look at the quad here. So as you can see, it's a carbon fiber frame. I'm not sure how thick it is. It doesn't seem real thin. You can bend it if you try hard enough, but it seems pretty solid to me. Then the motors here are 8520 brushed motors, and from what I can tell, they're the same motors as on the original QX95. They are plug and play, as you can see here. They plug right in, so that makes replacing them super easy. And a quick word about these motors, or brushless motors in general. When I got my QX90C, I was a little over zealous, and I flew like 4 flights in a row, back to back to back, and I noticed that 2 of the motors were weaker than the others, so the quad would start to kind of yaw and hover and stuff like that. You know how you can kind of get the sense of the motors being going bad. So I'd essentially burn them out, and I learned to wait at least 5 to 10 minutes between flights. It's hard to do, but that's why you need multiple quads, or get yourself a brushless motor quad. But anyway, let's focus on this. So yeah, wait 5 to 10 minutes between flights, and it's ever since I started doing that, I haven't burnt out any more motors since. So they will burn out eventually, but I believe by doing this, it keeps them from burning out prematurely, which is what you don't want. Okay, it has a buzzer, as you can see right here, which is awesome. I believe all micros should have one at this point in the game, since they are so small and really difficult to locate out in the field when you crash or land somewhere. Then you've got this LED strip on the back. Make sure you can see this. Is it focusing? Yes. Okay. Yep. So you got the LED, excuse me, LED strip in the back, which I believe is configurable in Betaflight. Now, take a look at the props. Notice anything strange? They're different props. So that's really strange. You've got these bullnose type props. These are the props that are on my QX90C, and I believe were on the original, kind of these bullnose type props. But then on the back, you've got these Hudson style props. They're the same size, but as you can see, they have a little different pitch to them. And these are rounded off and pointed at the ends, and these are, like I said, the bullnose style. Not real sure why this is the case, but I'm gonna go ahead and fly it stock. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch the back ones to match the front, and then I'll just compare flight performance to see if there's any notable difference in how it flies. So that's kind of strange. All right, now here is the binding button. Let's see if I can point that out for you. Grab a screwdriver. Okay, there we go. So right here is the binding button here. So what you do is you just hold down the bind button, plug in the battery, then you can go ahead and release that binding button. Then you go over to your Tyrannus and go ahead and bind it up. And I'll walk through that very quickly here in a moment. And lastly, let's look at the camera here. So it has this 600 TVL 48 channel all-in-one camera, which outputs at 25 milliwatts, which should be plenty for such a small micro that I certainly won't be flying very far. And the button to change the channels is right, focus, is right there. Oops, I'm sorry guys. I'm trying to maneuver here and make sure it's in the frame. So it's back in here, right here. Darn it, get out of the way. Right there, okay? And that's how you change the channels and bands and so forth. And as you can see, you can tilt this camera. Let's show you here. You can tilt it. And I don't know if I like this sort of setup here. It just seems like it'll break off very easily in a crash. You know, if you crash at the right or wrong angle, I should say, it seems like this thing would be a goner, but we'll see. We'll definitely test it out and see. And it doesn't tilt very far. Let me show you, see if I can show you here. See that? That's level to the horizon. And then it tilts about there. And that's fine for me. That's just fine for me. And you could probably adjust it more if you slip this dipole antenna out of here. You could probably tilt it up a little more. But yeah, like I said, I think that's perfect for me. All right, so let's get it bound to my QX7, and then we'll do a quick setup in beta flight. Then we'll go outside and do a line of sight flight, and then we'll throw the goggles on and rip some. Okay, so I have my Tyrannus here, so let's go ahead and get it powered on. And I've already created a model for this. Now, if you need help with setting up a model on your QX7 or Tyrannus, any Tyrannus, I'm going to link a playlist in the description box that will walk you through everything. A guy named Project Blue Falcon, or that's a YouTube channel name, did a really extensive playlist on the QX7 transmitter. He has since passed, God rest his soul, but he did an amazing job. It's actually what I used to set mine up, so I'm going to provide a link to that in the description. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at what we need to do here. Now, this is the type of receiver is actually a D8, so you're gonna have to switch that to D8. Oops, there we go. There we go, D8. So yeah, make sure the mode is D8 to correspond to the type of receiver that's in there. Then we're gonna come down to bind and put that to the side. I like to get my quad going first before I put it in bind mode, but you can certainly do that. Start it in bind mode and then come over here and do this part. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold down this bind button like so, and we're going to stick the battery in here. There we go. The LED is a solid green light actually. And we're gonna start the bind on the Tyrannus. And as you can see, the green light went out. So the receiver is actually built into the board here. So it's an all-in-one deal. Let's start the binding. And we're gonna unplug the quad. And we're going to plug the quad back in. And what do we have here? We have a solid green light now. And as you can see, those lights are different now. Those lights are super bright, man. Let's see what happens if I unplug the quad. See what happens with
telemetry lost.
Yes, so you heard from the Tyrannus, telemetry lost. So that signifies that there was a bind. When I unplugged it, that bind was broken. Okay, so we're good to go.
Telemetry recovered.
Okay, you guys, so we got blessed with a beautiful sunny day here in the middle of winter. It's about 45 degrees, so perfect day to get out here and test some quadcopters and catch up on some reviews. And I just got one of my 3.7 volt standard LiPo batteries here, because we're going to just do a line of sight test here. So let's go ahead and get it powered on and set up and ready to go. Got a little bit of wind coming left to right.
Switch warning.
Okay, we're ready to go. I'm not the best line of sight acro flyer, so we're just going to fly in angle mode. That is the stabilized mode here. Let's get in the air, and you can see the LEDs. I am pitching to the left, and you can see the left turn signal. Pitching to the right, you see the right turn signal. Pitching forward is pretty much nothing, but when you pitch back, you've got some brake lights. Yellow brake lights on the left and back there. I don't know if you can see that. Let me see if I can get it close up so you can see. See that? Left, right. So that's cool, huh? All right, let's go ahead and take it out. Nice and stable. I'm feeling very confident about flying this one. Let me show you the yaw rate. Pretty fast yaw. And it does get caught by the wind a little bit when it kicks up. Okay. Sucker is very agile. And seems as though it wants to fly fast. Let me do a punch here. These are brush motors, so I'm not expecting anything earth-shattering, but let's do it and see what happens. Full throttle. It's okay. Should be enough to get you out of trouble, but nothing crazy. Uh-oh, you saw that? It almost wanted to flip over. Maybe a combination of the wind and see that? Not sure what that is. I don't know if that's a tuning issue or not. And I'm going to try to be careful with this because of that wind. Okay, we are beeping now. So it looks like our battery has expired. And I'm going to go ahead and land it now and put the goggles on and do some FPV. Okay, let's go ahead and land it. All right, let me get the goggles on. I'll be right back.
Why did it start? How did it happen? I never meant for this to be. But your heart yielded to my openness and mine to your honesty. So
the right quadcopter.
Gadget, baby.
Call the gadget inspector.